Hello folks, back again with ancient cosmography. So I've been looking at a bunch of ancient maps, zoomorphic maps and anthropomorphic maps, and so this seems to be Papua. It's like a 30 between 30 to 33,000, or is it 30, something like that, or 30 to 32,000-year-old painting from Chauvet cave in France. And so it seems to have this shape here. It seems to maybe even have like either this island or this peninsula right here. I'm guessing maybe that little black line is that island, and maybe the peninsula here is part of this dark part right here that sticks out. And then it has this shape here, and it even seems to have this little peninsula right there, like has this little kind of bump right there. And it moves it around a bit to make it look like this type of animal. I'm not sure if this is a dromedary or what this is, or some kind of, but anyway, like this peninsula or an island / peninsula thing, it seems to be this, which I'm not sure, maybe that's both front legs combined together, kind of crossing each other to make that. And then the back leg seems to be this, the Papuan Peninsula. And, it has the fact that there's a little dip and then it goes up. That's somewhat true here, that it kind of goes down to here. And then after that, it goes up. And then this part, this peninsula here, seems to be incorporated into the neck. So it seems like this black line here kind of delineates the shape of that peninsula. And it's just kind of squeezed in more. And then there's, I guess this part on the other side of it is maybe just symbolic, but the shape of the head is pretty close. It kind of has an indent here, and then goes off, and might even have something to signify this part that's kind of off the coast or whatever, right on the nose there. Not sure. And then the horns are smaller than a lot of the other animals, but it might, the other avatars, but it might just be some of the little islands or seamounts around there. And then it seems that it might have like this kind of indentation here for this bay or gulf or whatnot. So, this was long considered to be the oldest cave paintings in Europe, although now they say that there's some in Spain that might be older. Already I deciphered the oldest cave paintings in the Balkans, which seem to represent Madeira and the Azores. So, let's see, this is from Çatalhöyük, the Neolithic site in Turkey. And so I haven't deciphered it yet, but it certainly seems to be the same type of anthropozoomorphic cartography. So hopefully if I can recognize some of these weird shapes. I was thinking in some ways this is similar to Hispaniola, but then I don't know what this all would be. And yeah, anyway, who knows? Could be closer islands like in the Aegean, or it could be further, who knows. So this is just showing how, you know, the modern nomenclature matches the ancient avatar. You know, the Lusco Birdman, you know, famously identified as such, who seems to represent Papua, with his, you know, bird head being this, and like this being the lower beak, and then his body being a man's body, and his phallus here being that peninsula, the Dolok Peninsula, and then his legs being the Papuan Peninsula. But it's just interesting that based on the modern place names, like just in just in the modern toponymy or nomenclature, this is still called bird's head, this is still called bird's beak, and this part here is called bird's neck. So that's pretty interesting. You know, if people are like, well, why would people imagine an island as a, oh god damn it, an island as a an animal? Well, they still do it. This is not the only instance of this. It's a very natural thing to do, especially if you have a kind of natural humanity that's not just completely neutered and brainwashed like ours is, where we just learn everything by rote, but we don't even have good ways to memorize things because we're so out of touch with their actual nature, because we had to destroy all this pagan stuff to like assert our, or not our, but you know, the authorities, our overlords, destroyed a lot of this just to assert their own dominance over us. So yeah, this this is a possibility. I'm not totally sure, but you know, this is from a cave in England. I forget what it's called right now, but yeah, so it at least has somewhat of the shape of this. Like, if so, the legs would be largely symbolic. It doesn't seem to really have peninsulas that stick out like this far at all. You know, it could be that this leg represents the kind of little pointy part there, and that there's something back here to represent this one. Hard to know, but it tends to be in a lot of these that the limbs are the most symbolic, or the most likely to be kind of not literal, you know, not basically kind of added on just to zoomorphize the avatar. So, but you know, it more or less matches in like the somewhat of the general shape that's pretty flat on the top, and that its back goes all the way up to its ear here, and you know, as opposed to being a regular animal that's back slopes down, its back goes all the way up, and then you know, it goes down here a ways, and then up, and then down a bit again, and then up. So, and then it's relatively rounded on the back, and then just the shape of this, you know, looks more or less like a one of those, you know, some type of goat or whatnot. As I was pointing out, you know, the other day when I was looking at Madagascar and trying to imagine what avatar it might be. But yeah, so this is, it's not, I don't know if there's enough that to be 100% sure about this, but it is a good match in many ways, so it may well be this. Madagascar, that's my antipode. So yeah, here's the Lusco avatars for Australia, Papua, Sulawesi, the Philippines, and Taiwan. And in it, only Australia is shown prograde, which is why I think I actually discovered this like years ago, like in 2020 or something. And then, but because I realized that it could only work if you flip, if these are at opposite orientations. So either you have to flip Australia inside out backwards, or you have to flip all the other islands backwards because they're at opposite orientations for them to actually match. And so I think that kind of freaked me out a bit because I wasn't used to that system. But now that I'm more familiar with the Egyptian system, and I've seen other instances like this where you have multiple islands together, some of which are prograde and some of which are retrograde. Like in the Hierakonpolis Tomb 100 map, where Pico Island is prograde and the surrounding islands are retrograde. Basically like this, where it's kind of the, it's the tallest peak of those islands. So it's maybe considered the dominant island, and it's prograde, and then all the other islands are faced towards it and are kind of dependent on it or oriented towards it and are retrograde. That's the same case here, where Australia is prograde and all these other kind of subservient or smaller islands are retrograde faced towards it. And so basically that's one reason I didn't pursue it all that much more. I didn't rule it out at all, but like when I discovered this, it just seems so weird that I just left it on the back burner because I had not yet encountered that type of thing of like prograde and retrograde in the same configuration. So, but now that I do understand that, I can more conclusively identify this, But yeah, I basically found it in 2020, but hindsight is 2020 now, so, or hindsight is 2023, I guess. So, this is Australia and surrounding islands in the ancient Egyptian book of Two Ways of Sepi. So in this, they might all be prograde. Not really sure why this image is so shitty on my phone here. So that this is Australia, and well, but actually this is wrong. I think this must have been a first first go of it. Yeah, I don't know what happened here. This is not oh, I think I know. I think I just pasted in from the other one to see if it matched, and it didn't. So okay, that's a erroneous comparison. So this is the real deal. This should be the real deal. Let's see. So yeah, this is Australia, and instead of Sulawesi, in this one he's holding Papua right there. His face is Cape York. His horns are the Great Reef, and see. So it's like Papua appears twice because it's like they first want to show its relation to Australia, in which Avatar Papua is represented by this Uraeus cobra, and then they want to show it, as a larger self-contained avatar. So I think that's what this is. And so yeah, it has these things coming back. So this one's basically prograde. I think everything is prograde in this. So these things are this and that. What was the phallus and the lower beak on the Birdman are these weird things sticking off of this cat, whose ears are the upper beak of the Birdman, and whose front of his face is the back of the head of the Birdman, but whose legs are the same legs, the Papuan Peninsula. And then Kalimantan, which is an enormous island, one of the largest islands on Earth, seems to be this guy, and is also seemingly prograde. And so it seems that part of his body is Sulawesi, just as in Lascaux, Sulawesi is part of the body of the Philippines, but in this one it's part of the body of Kalimantan, which makes sense because this is a photo of them as they actually are. They're right next to each other, Sulawesi and Kalimantan. So I think it's this space between these two parts of Sulawesi, which are the space between his arms here. So it's pretty stylized. And then New Zealand here, you can mostly tell just by the weird pointy pincher-like leg feet things that are those part of the North Island around Auckland. So this is just to compare, the different styles, but it is interesting to see that in all three, in this and this, so this is the Book of Two Ways of Jehudi Hotep. This is Australia. Basically, in both of the books of Two Ways avatars, as in the Lascaux avatar, Australia is a horned animal. So that's one continuity. And so yeah, here you see him. He's holding Sulawesi. Everyone's holding well, a bunch of them are, because it's kind of like a mascot for the area. He has this arm being this kind of York Peninsula, and head face being Cape York, and legs seemingly being Cobourg Peninsula and maybe the Tiwi Islands.